We're looking for your friend.
For the past 2 weeks, I've been reading Literary Passions by Dawn Duke. Something that really stuck out to me was her mentioning of the black aesthetic. So that's what this video is about. Now, I want to break down the definition of the black aesthetic before we even get started. I went online and I typed in the word aesthetic on Google. First thing that comes up is concerned with or the appreciation of beauty. Now, when I read that, I said, okay, great, this is perfect. It's the beauty of it. It's the beauty of blackness. Now, what I also thought of immediately after was, where do we draw the line between appreciation and exploitation? So I came up with a quiz called, are you really doing it for the culture? First question, do you use your platform for advocacy? So when you use the parts of black culture that fit you and make you feel cool, do you also advocate for injustices that occur in the black community? No? Well, then it's exploitation. 2, do you give credit where credit's due? So when you see a young designer making a gorgeous fashion and you decide to copy it, do you say that you were inspired by that person? No? Then you're exploiting. 3, what are your intentions behind using black culture? Do you do your research? Do you try to understand why somebody would not be okay with you using that aspect of black culture? Are you respectful in the way that you decide to use the art that is black culture? No? Then you're exploiting. We see the exploitation of black culture all the time in major media. First they laugh, then they imitate. In the 90s and the early 2000s, when we used to see black women with crazy colored hair and super long eyelash extensions and super long nails, they were often called ghetto. But now we see it on runways and it's considered high fashion. That's an issue. We see through the work of Exilia Zaldana, Georgina Herrera, and Nancy Moreon the importance of translation. We see the importance of being able to translate through poetry, children's books, and prose as well. We are able to expand our understanding of blackness through these mediums. The black aesthetic has been consistently abused by cultures outside of our own. We can stop having the argument about cultural appropriation when black bodies are no longer manipulated for the use of others. In the year 2019, we still see cases of children being kicked out of school for their hair. We recently saw how a young man had to cut his hair right before he started his wrestling match, or he was not going to be able to play. About 3 weeks ago, I finally did the big chop, right? I remember looking in the mirror at my hair and realizing that I didn't know what my curl pattern was because I hadn't seen my natural hair since I was about 7. I had no recollection of what it looked like, what it felt like, and that made me sad. I began to cry, but I wasn't crying because I had missed my natural hair. I was crying because I thought that I was now going to be ugly. That's such a sad thing to even mention or even have to worry about. But it's the truth. There are still women today that do not believe that they can be beautiful in all of their authentic blackness. Conditioning has taught us to denounce blackness. Our culture is not a costume to be worn or a role to be played. As a black community, it is our job to remember that. It is also our job to hold the celebrities that we love accountable for their actions as well. The conversation of cultural appropriation always seems to be a touchy subject because we cannot decipher whether things are done with good intent or bad intent. Regardless of how you feel about it, considering that it's all perspective, celebrities should do their due diligence to do the research. We should be doing our due diligence to do the research on blackness, our blackness, the blackness of others, because that's different as well. Trayvon Martin was murdered for looking suspicious, for having his hoodie up, and for going to the convenience store to get Skittles and in Arizona. When we consider cultural appropriation, it's important to remember these things. Although they are extremely painful, it is extremely important to keep these things at the forefront of our mind. It is important to have the conversation about cultural appropriation because the Black body is still not respected. The question that we have to ask ourselves is, are we doing the research? Until next time.